Welcome back, everybody. It's Paul Maglev here with Train Valley 2! If I failed to make it clear enough, this will be the last episode I plan on making for this game. There might be another 20 levels in the DLC that takes us across the world once again and beyond, with new content as well as features, but I feel this series has run its course, and it's about time I moved on. It's nothing personal, of course, because the game is fantastic. I just need the opportunity to invest my time in other projects, as well as new forms of content. The channel, of course, will still make train-related content as mentioned in a previous update video. But just because this series ends here, doesn't mean it should end unceremoniously. No, this series deserves to end with some sort of a bang. So why not shoot for the moon, or better yet, shoot for Mars as this level entails? Yes, the Martian planet. It seems these days every eccentric billionaire whose name isn't Bill Gates is spending their loads of cash trying to colonize, if not conquer, Mars. I'm not sure if that's more the results of their innate desire to fulfill some childhood dream of being rocket men, or just another way to grab all their money and seek refuge from the ecological mess that rich people turned the Earth into. Most likely though, exploration of Mars is another money-making venture. To any billionaires out there trying to set up shop on Mars, I only have one thing to say. Good luck terraforming that frozen mess of a barren, lifeless planet. If you played the main quest of another game all the way through called Conduct This, a game that I partly showcased on this channel in the past, then you might see some visual parallels in this level, such as the rocket's design, among other details. Aside from that, the level creator and directing rail traffic, that might be where the parallels between Train Valley 2 and Conduct This end. Level 50 takes Train Valley 2 full circle by bringing all the elements from previous levels together to hypothetically create the most difficult level in the main game. Not only is the map geographically split into separate rail networks, not only are there timed polymer trains and several goods that take forever to manufacture, but there's 2 customs facilities and 4 cities. The catch is that despite this level throwing every challenge it could offer and the kitchen sink, if players know what rail connections to make and get the timing right, the level becomes pretty simple. As a matter of fact, I completely forgot I finished this level faster than I anticipated until I checked the footage again. I certainly did not set any world records, but this definitely counts as my personal best. I start by building 3 rail networks and a series of steps based on available income. The first rail network connects the leftmost town to the uranium mine, a port providing steel plates, and an oil refinery. This is followed by connections to the fulfillment warehouse providing microchips and the Western Customs facility. The second network connects the leftmost town to the oil fields, the Eastern Customs facility, glass factory, and eventually the nuclear power station. The third rail network connects the 2 central stations together, followed by a shipyard importing electrical wiring, the sand quarry, a fulfillment facility providing engineers, the polymer facility, a computer factory, both customs facilities, plus the rocket ship factory. All of these networks are eventually combined, one way or another, for universal access between each other. This, however, is not the only trifecta behind this level. Players face 3 main challenges, in my opinion. The first was opening the Western Customs facility, and keeping it open. The second challenge was acquiring the 5th star, which forbids players from stopping any trains. The likelihood of derailments dramatically increases as a result of this, and prevention means more time spent planning ahead. The third challenge was getting the 4th star, which can only be earned by not destroying tracks. This is easier said than done, considering the greater likelihood of derailments mentioned previously. I'd go into detail about how to approach this level step by step, but this time around it might be easier to show than tell. With all that discussion about my game strategy out of the way, the next topic in mind is what I've been up to this week. Assessments at the beginning of the week suggested the week would pass by uneventfully, meaning there was nothing to discuss. Circumstances changed dramatically since I started the script, however, so here are the details. I spent part of the week doing work around my grandma's house. Part of that involved disassembling old curtains into their constituent parts, then sorting them into their respective bins for garbage disposal or recycling. The same was also done for the old decorative barrier mounted to the fireplace. The rest involved yard work, including a new protective barrier around the ginkgo sapling in the front yard, and adding a ground liner to certain parts of the backyard. The intention for the ground liner was simple enough, since it would keep the decorative rocks from sinking deeper into the ground each time it rains. The reason for installing a barrier around the ginkgo sapling, however, was anything but simple. The barrier protecting the sapling was necessary since we noticed someone royally messed up by edging the grass around the sapling too close with a weed whacker. The weed whacker was so close, in fact, it stripped the bark off the whole circumference of the ginkgo sapling's base. I was devastated, because that was one of the last things connecting me to an old job I enjoyed. We were later informed by the groundskeeping team this was caused by one of their former newly hires, who I was glad to hear had been terminated some time ago for making that mistake and several more serious mistakes with other clients. The damage remained, however, so we surrounded the sapling base with a precast segmented tree ring and added some decorative rocks gathered from the backyard to fill up the inside. The tree ring not only holds the rocks in place, it functions as an edging barrier to prevent that mistake from ever happening again. I had initial concerns that the sapling would die if the damage from the weed whacker went too deep and damaged the vascular cambium and phloem, but it seems to be budding, so there might still be hope yet. The ground liner in the back is still a work in progress, because the decorative rocks are still being removed. I stumbled on quite a few rocks submerged deeper in the ground than expected, but progress has been made. My hope is that I excavate the overwhelming majority of the rocks, and I will likely succeed. Although housework took up a decent portion of the week, this week's activities were not exclusively focused on them alone. The other critical event this week was yet another technical problem, this time with my external drive. Dad had insisted that storing any of my data on external solid-state drives was a bad idea, considering the limited times they can be written and rewritten. And one evening this week, I was afraid he was right, when the specter of misfortune wreaked technical havoc once again. Selecting folders in the drive only provided a simple error window stating, "The device is not ready." Every other way of accessing the data inside the hard drive, which came to mind, ultimately failed. Luckily, some research pointed out the error encountered was typically solved by installing optional computer drive updates. And wouldn't you know it, there was an optional computer drive update available. So, one driver update installation, computer restart, and brief external drive ejection later, and I was able to access the files inside it once again. Suffice it to say, had the external drive been corrupted or broken as initially suspected, chances are the final episode would have been delayed another week or more. I'm just glad that was not the case. Remaining plans for the weekend are minimal, mainly focusing on excavating the rest of the decorative rocks out of the yard and publishing this episode. With Christmas around the corner, some of you might be wondering what my plans are for the holiday. I can assure you Christmas isn't cancelled here, as many have joked about online starting almost 2 decades ago on 2Channel. My family's plans will be the same as they were for the last few years, since only immediate family will be there to celebrate. This configuration of only celebrating with immediate family runs parallel with our Thanksgiving plans over the last few years, as mentioned previously, which also keeps plans simple and easy. What I can say though is that both configurations were particularly handy this year due to pandemic restrictions. The same cannot be said for our original plans to meet with family friends this year for New Year's Eve, because those plans are beyond cancelled due to local pandemic restrictions. Hopefully, if you have any holiday plans this season, you too will find a way to celebrate that follows your local pandemic guidelines and makes accommodations where need be. At this point in the video, I normally mention my thoughts on recent events at the national level, but my patience for that finally ran out. I could also reflect on the year that passed by, but I have nothing useful to say on the matter, and several other commentators did a better job reflecting on this disaster of a year than I ever could. Instead, I will reflect on this game, since that is what final episodes of Let's Plays and game commentaries are partly for. It's not often that a train game this fantastic comes around, with a diversity of game elements, iconic visuals, and seemingly endless content, especially one that not only works great, but is also dirt cheap. Why buy the latest and greatest when we can spend our time playing games that actually work? Its mechanics are intuitive and accessible for every kind of user, ranging from the most casual players on one end of the spectrum to the hardiest speedrunners and completionists on the other. No stone in this game was left unturned either, because the built-in custom level designer is thorough, and the online community it facilitates with map sharing through the Steam store is not only remarkable, but also updates with the latest trending custom levels. That's not even mentioning the extra 20 levels available with the DLC, whose extra game assets and new mechanics can also be incorporated into custom levels. My special thanks belong to the developers, including Alexei Davidov, Sergei Vyonnikov, and Timothy Shagorodsky for spending their time and dedication doing more than making an excellent game, but also fostering the strong community surrounding it since its inception. I sincerely wish you all the best. My thanks also belong to the publisher Flasm for making the game's publication possible and for granting me access to the early alpha version of the game for testing purposes. That wraps up the main campaign for Train Rally 2! Thank you all for watching. I will see you in future videos. Until then, happy belated Hanukkah, happy solstice, Merry Christmas, Boxing Day, Harizak Kwanzaa, and Happy New Year, everybody!